Hello people of the internet, thank you very much for clicking on the video. How are you? As it says in the title up above, I'm going to be showing you how I have my Sony A7 III set up for video, okay? Because there's a bunch of different ways, you can map any single button in any kind of configuration of how you want and what you want it to do. So there's a lot of customization on this, there's a lot of options. I've seen a bunch of different videos on YouTube and put some of my own personal preferences into how I have it set up. So personally, I think it's a really efficient way, of shooting and having the camera. I've not needed to change anything now for a few months, so I'm really happy with how it is. If I'm on a shoot and I quickly need to access something or change something, some kind of functionality of the camera, I can do that, and it's not really much of a problem. So hopefully you find it useful. So yeah, let's jump into the camera now, and I'll show you how I've got it set up. Okay, so the order that I'm going to be going through things is this. I'm going to go through the custom buttons there, C1, C2, C3 and C4 down here. Then I'm going to go through the dials, the buttons up, down, left, right, this joystick, AF on, AEL. Then I'm going to go and tell you what all my function menu is, and what it is and why I've got it set up that way, and then also my own menu here in settings. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so C1 up here, we'll press that, that's white balance, fairly self-explanatory there. It's always nice to have that close by to quick access. C2 is picture profiles. Again, really nice to just have that nearby so you know exactly what you're shooting in and if you need to change it on a shoot. C3 is quite an interesting one. I can zoom in and out with this one. This is clear image zoom, and I can press up and down now, like quick, zoom by stepping like that a little bit quicker. This is kind of similar to crop mode, which is here. If I press down like this on the down arrow, I can crop in. The difference is once recording you can't crop in, look. So it's not doing it for me. But with C3 enabled as a clear image zoom function, then I can just zoom in while recording. That's really useful if you don't want to stop recording. Maybe you need the audio or something or whatever. It's always handy to have that set so you can actually zoom it in and turn those prime lenses into, you get a bit more reach out of them, and same with regular zoom lenses, you get a bit more reach out of those ones as well. So that's really handy. You can as well crop and zoom like this and record, so you're getting even more reach out of that lens, especially if you've got a zoom lens. Look, you can zoom all the way in. I don't know what focal length that'll be equivalent to, you can do the maths. Down here, C4, this option doesn't actually do anything when I press it, but it locks the focus. It's a bit like manual focus, but as it's held, it's not going to be changing the focus. Wherever it is, it's going to stay, and then when you release it, it will then find focus again. So that's handy in certain circumstances. If you can see somebody's going to walk past the lens, past the camera, and it's going to lock onto them, you can just quickly hold that down for a couple of seconds, let them pass, and then let go again, and then it won't focus hunt. This is if you've got it on autofocus. You can use manual focus, but yeah, it's just sometimes that's handy just to have it as a little focus hold button. You never know when you might need it until you need it. It's one of those kind of buttons. All right. So we've established what down is. Pressing down is crop mode. Pressing right, as you'll see here, MF, manual focus. I'm just flicking between auto and manual focus. Press left, that's my peaking display on and off, because sometimes, say I'm in manual focus and I'm here, let's just get that, there's a lot of red going on there, and sometimes it can be a little bit distracting from the final image, and you can't properly see. You just want to make sure the exposure's right and whatnot. It's in focus, but you can just press left, and you turn it off and you're sorted. So that's why I have that enabled. Really, really easy and quick just to turn that on and off. And finally, I've got up, which just cycles through the different kind of screens. You can have your histogram there. You can see that the camera's level with this one, like a spirit level, whatever. That's kind of handy. I think that's just the standard one though, isn't it? It says display there, so that's just the standard one. I've not changed that because that's quite handy. Pressing the center button, this one will now draw a box, and then press it one more time, it punches in. So if I change this now to manual focus and then punch in, we can see that the Samsung logo is clearly out, but I can just get it in focus like that, nice and easy, by punching in. It doesn't affect the final image. This is just purely done in camera, and you can see that that Samsung logo is going to be absolutely tack sharp and perfect. So it's a really handy function, just being able to press that middle button, just zoom in, check, yep, it's in focus, and then you can start recording. So that's really handy. Okay, so now we've got the joystick here. So this one's a bit difficult to see now, but I'm in, let's have a look here, zone focus area mode, which has a little box around it, so you can just about see the top two corners there. I can actually push up, down, left, right, and change the area of that box. So that's what that is there, up, down, left, right. I can pinpoint which area of the screen I want to be in autofocus. Push the button in, and I've got my audio record levels there, so that's really handy if you've got a lapel mic in, a shotgun mic, or using the internal mic on the camera. It's really easy just and handy to press that button and be able to just change the audio levels there, because I don't think it has an auto function, so just have that there at one little press. The AF on button up here in my right thumb, press that. This is gamma display assist, so let's go into C2 here and bring up picture profiles. If I shoot here, as you can see, this is HLG3. That's quite flat, isn't it? So you can put gamma display on, and then it just puts a little bit of more saturation in there and contrast, so you can see what the final image would look like. So that's just an assist. It doesn't actually impact the final image. That's it off, that's it on. So you can just sort of get an idea of the exposure, I guess. So that's kind of handy to have that function on. Let's just go back to standard picture profile there. The AEL button, I've set that to center lock autofocus, which is double handy, because let's just turn that off for a sec. Let's just say here, zoom in on that pumpkin. I can now tap the screen and it draws a box around it there. So it's going to always keep that pumpkin in focus. Even if I go off screen with the pumpkin and come back on, it remembers what it was that was tracked. That'll track any shape, anything, and all the movement. If it's coming to the camera or moving away further from the camera, it will then just keep that in focus. So it's kind of like somebody just doing the focus pull-in for you, and you enable that. It was just with this AEL button up here. If you have it turned off, when you press, it will just lock on to what you've pressed it on, and then it's changed now, as you can see, to manual focus. So that's locked now. It's not going to change the focus. And then press the middle button to turn that off again. But I don't really find that useful. I like to have the center lock autofocus on, and then you can just tap the individual thing, whatever it is on the screen that you want it to remain in focus on, and it will do that. So yeah, it's really, really handy, that function. Okay, so that's all the buttons there. My dial here is just my ISO, so I can roll that and have that on whatever I want. The dial up here in my thumb, this one is just my aperture, and then the one at the front is controlling the shutter speed. So said I'll go into my function one here. This is my autofocus track sensitivity. Can just choose how sort of sticky the focus is, so say for instance you're filming your subject, maybe it's a shop window, the front of a shop or the front of a building, and a car drives past. Having it set to responsive means that the camera is going to quickly jump to that, a bus driving past, it will quickly lock focus on the bus, which is not necessarily what you want. You want the bus to just drive past and the camera can still have that focus in the distance. So you can just choose how sticky the focus is, the sensitivity of it. It's quite handy to have that set, so focus modes here. You only get 2 when you're in video mode. The rest are all for photography purposes, so just leave that menu there so it's familiar. Focus area, all the different settings there. I'll go into that into another video if you want, explaining what all of those are. But I just like it there so I can quickly choose between them. Priority set auto white balance, I can just choose ambient or white or standard of the auto white balance. This is S&Q, the frame rate. So if I flick this dial here on the top and change it to S&Q, up there. I'll just do it now for you, like that. That's slow and quick. So now, ignore that. Now that's only at 1 frame a second. So that's perfect for filming a time lapse. Look how slow that is. But if I want to film something in slow motion, just flick it to 100, and now I can film in really slow motion. But be aware, this doesn't record audio. Moving on here, we've got the metering modes. Again, I'll go into that in another video explaining what all of those are. Marker display, if I turn that on, I will get all of this different, all these different marker options, a grid, and cine bars. But I find that a bit too much. I don't normally put that on when I'm in S&Q mode, so let's just go back to like a normal mode, and there we go. Now we've just got the cine bars, the letterbox, whatever you want to call it. Top and bottom of the screen helps as a guide frame if you want to put black bars there, so that's cool. Zebra display, you know, if anything's clipping, it will show up, so I can quickly toggle that on and off. Peaking color, this one's really handy. So for instance, it's set to red. Let's put it in manual focus and zoom in. My keyboard's got red edges, which is what the focus actually uses. Uses like, you know, contrasty edges to show you. But look, it's really difficult to see when you film something red. So if that, you know, ever happens, I can switch it to yellow, and look at that now. It's much easier to see those fine edges of what's in focus. So I have that set there, so I can just change the color. Steady shot, if I'm putting it on a tripod and I don't want steady shot, I'll just set that to off, so the camera, you know, the image, it's not going to be moving at all without my say so. Creative style here, this is just different baked in like picture profiles, if you will. It's always handy just to have that nearby. And then subject detection, if I'm photographing or filming a dog, or, you know, an animal or a human. If I'm filming my dog, if it's set to human, it'll just focus on like the tip of their nose, and their eyes will be out of focus, which is not what we want. So I would then go into here and just change that to animal, and then it'll keep their eyes in focus. I always click on it like this on all of the options, you know, like click the middle button and then scroll through them. But I don't know why I do that, because I could just use the dials and it flicks through them. But I never remember to do that, but it's a little bit easier actually. So that's pretty much everything. Lastly, it's just my menu and what I've got in here. These are all additional options that I don't need to access that quickly, but they are handy just to have nearby when you do need them. Monitor brightness, pretty much always have that to sunny. The Finder monitor, well, Finder/monitor, so you can choose whether just to have the viewfinder or the monitor on auto. If it's on auto, when you put your thumb or your face over the viewfinder, the EVF, the screen will just turn off. That can be annoying when you've got a gimbal on, or if somebody gets too close and puts the hand over it. I've had it before where people put the hand over it to try and see the screen and shade the sun from it, and they've gone, why has the screen gone off? And I'm like, oh, it's got a little sensor at the top. So if you know that's going to be the case, if you're going to use a gimbal or whatever, just put that to monitor, and then it won't go off when you block that that sensor. Always handy to have nearby. Record settings, I can choose my frame rate, I can choose if I'm going to be in 4K or not. Additional Zebra settings there. Auto review, that's my pictures, so I take a picture, it'll flash on the screen for 2 seconds, 5 or 10 seconds, so I can quickly see it. That's handy in different circumstances, but I won't get into that one. Live view, that again, that's a photography, because I do some photography. That's handy there to have the screen act as a sort of optical viewfinder, or actually show you the live view so you can see what the final image would look like. The autofocus drive speed, that is how quickly it will autofocus on something, so it can be really fast and snappy, but can look a bit amateur. Normal or slow, so you can tap the screen, it'll slowly roll that focus to what it is that you've tapped, so it looks a little bit more cinematic, so that's always handy to have nearby. Track sensitivity, that's the same option as in the quick menu as you saw before. Manual focus assist, this one is again for photography, so if I'm taking a photo I can punch in and really check that focus, just the same as video, but that's just how to turn it on that way. Here, this is the memory, so the recall options, which I'll get into in a minute. That's just on the dial. That's how to set those up. So if you want to set the camera up in a certain configuration, that's how you do that at the top. you know, with the dial on the top, sorry, that's if you can choose between 1 and 2 or a few different other options. And this is how you save those options by going into this menu here, but I'll come to that in a minute. Marker display, again I've got that same option there. Format, this is how I can format my cards. Just highlight the option nearby, really handy. Record media settings here, so I can choose which card I have the data write to, or the mode, so it can be both of them at the same time, or sort them, or standard, which will write to one, and when that's full it switches over, if auto switch is enabled. So that's kind of handy to have nearby. And as you can see, that's it for my menu. They're really handy features to have nearby. Said I'll go into the dials on the top. So mine's set to 1 at the minute. So that is, I can have this camera set up in any which way I want, all of the individual settings. The white balance, the pitch profile, all of the aperture settings, and, well, you know, ISO and shutter speed and what have you. But pay attention here, you'll see that's 25 frames per second with a 50 shutter speed. So that's great for filming long bits where people are talking, but if I want to film some bits in slow motion, I can flick to 2, and now I'm shooting at 50 frames a second, and I've got a shutter speed of 100 now. So it's just really handy for flicking between different kind of things that you're going to be filming. So I can use this mode for any slow motion clips, flick to 1, press the center button, and now I'm filming long segments of people talking and what have you. And then you've got these other options here, M1, M2, M3, M4. Those store onto the memory card, not internally on the camera. Only options 1 and 2 save to the camera itself. So if you do set up these additional options, God knows who needs 6 options altogether, because you can have 6 different setups, 6 different configurations. I don't know why you need that many, but if you do, the last 4 will only write to the card. But here, for example, M1, I can press that, and this is now in photography mode, so I've got a different shutter speed, picture profiles like off kind of thing, and as you can see, so it's it's really handy just to be able to flick the switch on the top, and all of a sudden, at the flick of a switch, you've got a completely different camera in your hands. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers anything. If I've not been very clear, just ask me to elaborate in the comments, and I will do. Or if I've got anything wrong, please feel free to let me know. Yeah, I think that's everything. Alright, so there we go. If you found that useful, brilliant. Click that like button and all that kind of stuff, and subscribe button if you want to see more, because I'm more than happy to do more videos. Leave a comment of whatever you'd like to see next, and hopefully I can help you out with something else. Yeah, thanks very much for watching, and happy shooting.